Hi, I'm Glo, and welcome to Glo's Kindred Kitchen. Today we're going to be doing a rhubarb cake, and it's actually a very special rhubarb cake, and I thought I'd share it with you. I get these books made, that are done by Taste of Home, and I really like them because they're recipes from individual people all over. And this particular recipe is called Special Rhubarb Cake. And I gotta tell you, it is delicious. And it was shared by Bianna Schlabach, and this book is from 2002. And the reason she shared it, or one of the reasons, is the ladies from her church made her this cake for her 84th birthday. And I thought that was really special, and that might be why they call it that too, for special occasions like a birthday. But anyway, I thought I'd share this recipe today with you. So the first thing we do is we're going to add 1 cup of sugar to this bowl. And I went ahead and pre-measured this stuff. It just makes it easier. And then we're going to put in 2 tablespoons of butter. And what you do is we're going to blend these 2 things together with your electric beater. And I just use my small one for stuff like this. I'm just going to put it on the slowest setting. Okay, I just want to show you what this looks like so far. So I just incorporated the butter that was softened into the sugar.
Looks good, Miss Glo.
Okay, and then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take 1 egg, is what it calls for, and my eggs weren't at room temperature, and when you bake, it's very important that you use eggs that are at room temperature, and I'll tell you a trick. What I did is I filled up this bowl here with some warm water and put my egg in it, and within 5-10 minutes my egg's at room temperature, especially this time of year being summer. So I'm going to go ahead and crack this egg, but I'm going to use this bowl that I have my sugar in, which will be fine because it's just going to go right into this cake. But that way I make sure I don't get any shells or anything in there. And I'm just going to put this eggshell right here and get rid of that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that egg right in here with this. And I have a sink of warm sudsy water over there, and I always use that when I'm cooking. It just helps to keep everything clean, so I don't have a lot of cleanup at the end. So you can see how easy that was. And there's the 1 egg blended in with the 2 tablespoons of butter, and I use real butter, and the 1 cup of sugar. So now the next step is I'm just going to move this up so we can see what we're doing here a little bit. I went ahead and I measured out 2 cups of just all-purpose flour. And then to that, I'm going to add in 1 teaspoon of baking powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And if you're not real steady with your hand, I wouldn't recommend doing that over it, but it works for me. So I'm just going to stir this up. That's good enough. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this flour mixture to this alternately along with a cup of buttermilk. And I didn't have any buttermilk on hand, but I'll tell you a little trick. All you have to do is use, of course, a liquid measuring cup measurement. And you add in 1 tablespoon of white distilled vinegar, or you can use lemon juice. And I just used the vinegar today. And here's your buttermilk. You just let it set 5 or 10 minutes and you're all set to go. So I'm going to go ahead and put that over there. Now I'm going to move this back towards me so it's easier for me to blend it. And I use one of these pads so that my bowl's not going all over the place. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to get a spoon out. I'm just going to start adding a little bit of this to it, the flour mixture. Can you guys see?
Oh yeah.
Okay. And once that gets blended well, I'm just going to take and add a little bit of this, the buttermilk. And you can see how it made your batter a little thinner.
Right.
So, and I always stop it when I'm going to add the flour so they don't have such a mess. So you just blend till it gets incorporated in there pretty good. And then we're going to add a little bit more of this buttermilk. So I'm going to continue to go ahead and do this, but you guys don't really probably want to watch all of this. So I'll be back in just a few minutes after I get this all combined and we'll go on to the next step. Hi, well, I got everything combined for the cake except for one thing. And that is the rhubarb. And prior to us coming on, I went outside and I got my rhubarb. I have a couple of plants along the side of my house, and rhubarb here in western North Carolina is not one of those that grows wild. It took me a while to find the exact place that would grow really well. And I did find it though after about 5 or 6 plants that family members had shared with me from up in Michigan. So I was really thankful that they did that for me, and here we are with this beautiful rhubarb. I cut it in about 1/2 inch to 1 inch pieces. You can cut it smaller, but when you do that and you put that in your cake, you're not going to really have a bite of rhubarb because it'll get completely cooked and kind of dissolve into the cake more. So I've done that with cookies before, and to be honest with you, I prefer to have a little bit better, bigger piece than this.
How much rhubarb is that, Miss Chloe?
That's a very good question.
I think you had 10 stalks or whatever. Whatever.
Yeah, Deanna's recipe here calls for 2 cups of rhubarb. I personally, and our whole family, likes rhubarb so much that I usually use 3 to 3.5 cups. And this is about 3 1/4 cups. And prior to us coming on, when we went out to pull it, I actually pulled extra that I put away as well. But I have a video on rhubarb and how you pull it, or you can cut the stalk off the bottom of the plant, whichever way you want to do that. And that's on a video that I did very early on when I started doing YouTube, and it was called Chloe's Irresistible Rhubarb Pie. And I must say that is a delicious recipe as well.
It's very good,
Yeah.
very good.
So, but anyway, on that video, we actually do go outside and show you the plant. We pull it. That's what we do. We pull it. Some people cut it. And that way you can see the leaves too. Leaves are very poisonous and you do not want to eat those, only the stalk. So anyway, I just thought I'd share that with you. So when you put this rhubarb in here, you don't want to use a beater. And you don't want to stir very hard. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in a little at a time. And what I do is I fold it lightly. I'll add a little bit more. One last piece there. So I'm going to continue to fold this lightly. And prior to us coming on today as well, I have my oven preheated to 350 degrees. And this cake requires you to bake it for 40 to 45 minutes. And this is not a 9 by 13 cake. You could easily make extra of this and probably double it, and you'd have a nice 9 by 13. But it actually calls for a 9 by 9 square pan. But I don't have a 9 by 9 square pan, so I'm using a 9-inch round cake pan, which will be fine. So now what we do is we just go ahead and pour this in. There we go. And now we just have to make a topping that is like a crumb topping that's going to go on top of here. So let me just move this out of the way. And I went ahead and let's move this out of the way as well. So the streusel topping calls for 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour, and it also calls for 1/4 cup of granulated sugar. So that's what I have in this bowl. And I'm just going to kind of stir that together. There we go. And then it calls for 2 teaspoons of 2 tablespoons, excuse me, of melted butter. So I did that in the microwave. And when I do it in the microwave, I do it at power level 5 for about 20 seconds. You don't want to do it much more than that or you'll have a mess in your microwave. So you just blend this together and it'll be like crumbs, like a crumb topping. And sometimes when I make this, I will add like cinnamon or cardamom or something like that. Or nutmeg is another one that pairs very well with rhubarb to this. And there's a sauce that we're going to be making as well for this that you can add those spices to it as well. Let's see how that looks. Just kind of crumbly.
Looks good, Miss Glow.
Yeah. Comes together real nice. Don't want to waste, because that's some of the good stuff for the cake. So anyway, you just take your hands and you just sprinkle it along the top. But this is a great cake to serve like for a party or something. Actually, it was her birthday party. Most people just really like this.
It is delightful.
Yeah, we're looking forward to having it for dinner tonight. So there we go. And I just kind of move out some of the crumbs to the edge with my hand. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and put this in the oven for 40 to 45 minutes on 350 degrees, and I'll be back to show you the end. Hi, well, welcome back. We are now going to be making the sauce that we are going to be pouring over our slice of cake when we serve it, and it is called vanilla sauce. And so what we're going to do is I already have melted a half of a cup of butter in here, or 1 stick of butter, and by all means make sure you use butter. And then to that we're going to be adding some sugar. 3/4 of a cup of granulated sugar is what the recipe calls for. There we go. And then we're going to add a half of a cup of half and half. The original recipe calls for you to use pep milk or evaporated milk, and I didn't have any on hand, but I do have half and half, and you can exchange that for it, substitute. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm going to go ahead and pour that in. And I'm going to go ahead and turn my burner back on. I had turned it off because it was really starting to bubble up, splatter. We didn't want that mess. So anyway, this will take probably 2 to 3 minutes to cook it till it starts to thicken up. So while it's cooking, we'll just turn off the video and I'll be back in just a little bit and I'll show you what it looks like. Well, our sauce here has been bubbling away for probably 3 to 4 minutes actually, and I think the reason it took a little longer is because I had used half and half and that was cold. So I'm going to show you a trick to see, to help you to determine if your sauce is cooked enough. If it sticks to the back side of your spoon and doesn't go off of it, you know that it's ready to use. See how that does?
Doesn't run off.
Can you see that?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So now we're just going to turn the heat off. I'm going to go ahead and move this over here, as I have one last ingredient to add to this. I'm going to add some vanilla. Let me just turn this over so it's a bit better. And I always use real vanilla, and it calls for 1 teaspoon. There we go. So I'm going to pour that in. And just stir this up. And that's normal when you add something like that to a hot mixture, vanilla with alcohol in it. You probably saw where it was bubbling a little after I started to combine it. That's perfectly fine. So anyway, this is going to be fine to use when we're ready, when the cake is done and cools off a little. And you can easily warm this up back up on the stove or in your microwave. But we'll be back when the cake's all done, and we'll take a slice of it and show you what it looks like. Hi, well, the cake is all done and we've already taken a couple slices out of it, but I wanted to show you what the inside of it looks like. As you can tell, you've got the rhubarb there. This cake is extremely moist and just so good. The top is a little crunchy, but I gotta tell you, it's one of the better rhubarb cake recipes I have made. And we just really like it. But one of the things I noticed when we were reviewing the video is I forgot to tell you that I butter this pan before I put the batter in it. So make sure you butter it, lightly butter it, and you'll be good to go. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you again later on. Bye.
Well, here's a piece of the special rhubarb cake that made in Glow's Kindred Kitchen today. It is very good. I've already sampled a little bit of it. After a hard day of filming, that's what I like to finish the day with, is a piece of this special rhubarb cake. So check it out, try the recipe, enjoy it. It's very good. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our videos, and we'll see you in the next one. It is great.